Once upon a time, there was a miller and his wife who lived very happily. In life, the richer you become, the richer you become. But no one expected the tribulation. Things come quickly, now they also go quickly over the years. In the end, he didn't and hash 39 T even know if the mill was still his or not. Working hard all day, at night he lay down on his bed and tossed and turned with worries and thoughts. One morning, he got up and went outside to enjoy the fresh air. When the first rays of sunlight were glimmering, when he walked to the high mound near the mill house, he heard the gurgling sound of water. Looking back, he saw a beautiful woman slowly emerging. She raised her soft hand to brush away her long hair that fell down her shoulders, her long hair covering her entire ivory body. He knew immediately that it was a male in the pond, but he was so scared that he didn't and hash 39 T know whether to run away or stay. The male spoke softly, calling his name and asking why he was so sad. After a moment of standing still, hearing the man and number 39's open and friendly voice, the miller regained his composure and said that before he lived a prosperous and abundant life. Now I and number 39 am so poor, I Don and number 39 T know what to do. The male son told him, Don and number 39 T worry, I will make you richer and happier than before. There and number 39's only one thing you have to promise me about what and number 39's just been born in your house. He thought to himself, and quote, there and number 39's nothing more than puppies or kittens, and quote, and accepted. The male dived, the miller felt confident and happily returned home. As soon as he arrived at the gate, his son ran out to tell him the good news that his wife had just given birth to a son. When he heard the news, it was like a thunderbolt striking his ears. He thought, the mischievous man knew in advance and deceived him. With his head down, he approached his wife and number 39's bed. Seeing that he was sad, his wife asked, with such a handsome son, are we not happy? At that time, he told his wife about meeting his son and the promise he made to him. Then he continued, if you lose your child, there and number 39's no point in being rich. Know what to do now? Relatives in the family congratulated him on giving birth to a son, but they could not tell him any solution. At this time, he and his wife suddenly became successful again, making a profit in everything they did. It seemed like overnight the rice warehouse was full, and the money in the cupboard was multiplying. Soon he was richer than before, but he was always worried about his promise to his son. Every time I pass by the pond, I and number 39's am afraid it will pop up and remind me of my debt. He didn't and hash 39 T let me play near the pond and even told me, Don and number 39 T put your hand into the pond, because if you reach down, a hand will reach up and grab you and pull you to the bottom. Many years have passed, and the male child has not appeared yet, so I feel reassured. The baby was once a boy. He studied hunting and is now one of the village and number 39's best hunters, working for the village lord. In the village there was a beautiful and kind girl, whom he was very pleased with. The boss knew what he meant, so he gave them a small house. They got married and lived happily as a couple. One time he went hunting for a deer. The deer ran away into the field, he chased it and shot it dead. After he finished gutting the intestines, he went to find a place with water to wash his bloody hands. Accidentally he came right to that dangerous pond. He had just dipped his hand into the water when suddenly the male appeared, smilingly raised his wet arms, hugged him and pulled him down, the water rolling up to cover both of them. It was dark and her husband still hadn't and #39 T returned, so the wife felt scared and rushed to look for him. Thinking about what my husband often said, to pay attention to male children at the pond and not to go near the pond. She quickly ran to the pond and saw her husband and #39's hunting bag right at the pond and #39's edge. Now she no longer had any doubts. She struggled and cried, screaming her husband and #39's name, but to no avail. She went to the other side of the pond to call her husband, then cursed her son severely. But the scene was silent, there was no response, only the crescent moon shining dimly on the calm pond water. The poor wife did not leave the pond even a single step. She ran around the pond frantically, sometimes screaming miserably, sometimes mumbling and moaning, sometimes standing still. Finally, exhausted, she fell to the ground and fell asleep. While sleeping, she dreamed that she was trembling climbing a mountain, sharp rocks and thorns crushed her feet, rain and wind burned her face, and her long hair was blown away by the wind. When she climbed to the top of the mountain, the scenery was completely different. The sky was blue, the air was pleasant, the mountain surface was almost flat. In a field of green grass mixed with colorful flowers, there is a beautiful hut. She went there immediately, opened the door and saw an old woman with white hair cordially waving at her. Dreaming about it, she suddenly woke up. It was already dawn, and she decided to follow her dream. She tried her best to climb the mountain and everything was exactly like what she saw in her dream the night before. The old woman received her very cordially, pointed to the chair, invited her to sit and said, "You must have had some misfortune. That and #39's why you came to my tent in this remote place." She cried while telling her what happened to her. The old woman comforted, "Don and #39's cry anymore, Don and #39's worry, I will help you. Here I give you a golden comb. Please be patient, when the full moon comes, go sit by the pond and use this comb to comb your beautiful long hair. After combing, leave the comb at the edge of the pond, then you will see something strange happening." She returned home. Time is so long for you now. Just as the full moon shone brightly everywhere, she sat by the pond, combing her long black hair with a golden comb. After combing, she left the comb right at the edge of the pond. Immediately afterward, water waves rolled up from the bottom of the pond, overflowing the pond and #39's edge and carrying the comb along with the water. The comb had just settled to the bottom of the pond, when the water surface suddenly split in two, and then her husband and #39's head emerged. He didn't and #39's say a word, just looked at his wife with a sad expression. Then the second wave arose, rolling and submerging his head. It all just happened in a moment. Now the pond surface is as flat as before. People can only see the full moonlight reflecting on the water surface like a mirror. Frustrated, she went home. At night, she dreamed of an old woman and #39's hut. The next morning she went to complain to her about her situation. She gave her a golden flute and told her, "Please wait patiently until the full moon, then take this flute out and sit by the pond, play a beautiful love song, then place the flute." on the sand. You will see something strange happen." She did exactly as the midwife told her. As soon as the flute touched the sand, waves rushed up from the bottom of the pond. The waves overflowed and swept the flute along. At that moment, her husband parted the water and emerged. He raised his hand to reach for her, but the second wave rose up and covered his head. "Pull him down," the unfortunate woman complained. "God, what an number 39's the use of that? Seeing your husband only to have him leave again." Once again, numb sadness filled her heart, but in her dream she saw herself being led to the midwife and number 39's house. The next day she went to her house again. The midwife gave her a golden spinning wheel, comforted her and said, "Everything is not over yet, child, be patient. Wait until the full moon. Then take this golden spinning wheel to the edge of the pond and sit on it for a while. A full roll. When you and number 39 redone, leave the reel right at the edge of the pond, and then you and number 39 see something strange happen." You did exactly that. Waiting for the full moon to shine, she took the reel to the edge of the pond, sat down and diligently reeled in the yarn, filling the reel with yarn. As soon as the yarn filled the reel, there was suddenly a sound of water waves, a rolling wave of water rising up and carrying the reel away. Then her husband followed the waves and appeared on the water and number 39's surface. He quickly jumped ashore, pulled his wife and number 39's hand and ran away, but the couple had only run a few steps when the pond water rose loudly, flooding the entire field. The water flowed so fast that the couple thought they were about to die. The wife quickly prayed to the old woman. In just a moment the wife turned into a turtle, her husband into a frog. The water swept away both turtles and frogs, carrying each one to its own place. When the water drained away, the two animals lay on land and reappeared in human form. Now each person has their own place, separated by high mountains and deep valleys. They have to live with indigenous people. No one knows where they come from. To make a living, they herded sheep. They lived like that year after year, herding sheep through forest after field, always feeling sad and longing. Spring came again, the grass grew lushly, and they drove the sheep out to pasture again. By chance they were going in opposite directions. He saw a herd of sheep feeding on the grass in the distance, so he drove his flock there. Even though they herd sheep in the same valley now, they still Dawn and number 39 recognize each other. They just feel like they and number 39 not as lonely as before. Every day they drove their flocks of sheep to the fields to eat near each other. Occasionally they would exchange words, and found life to be happier. That night, when the full moon had risen and the sheep were sleeping, the shepherd took out his flute and played a painful love song. After he finished playing, he saw the shepherd and number 39's girlfriend sobbing and asked, "Why? I cry?" The other person replied, "Oh my God, the full moon is as bright as today. When I played this song on the flute, I saw my husband rising out of the water." He looked at the girl. It seemed like the separating veil had dissolved, and he recognized his beloved wife again. Thanks to the moonlight shining on the man and number 39's face, she recognized her husband. The two hugged and kissed each other. There is no need to ask how happily they live. Thank you for joining us for today's fairy tale. We hope these stories bring joy and meaning to your day. If you love our channel, please hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any exciting tales. Wishing you a good night and sweet dreams. See you in the next story.